Right on, right on. Welcome back to Life of the Germ. I'm your host, Jeremy. Just went on a little run this morning. Little Labor Day morning run. We got album of the week right here. Little James Taylor action. Set this down. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Hold on. Wanted to get a little thumbnail for the cover. Get the cheese going. Gotta get some use out of the cheese. This. Oh, yeah. All right. All jokes aside, we're back. Life of the Germ back in action. Let me get the mic here so you guys can hear me. Yeah, I went for a little run this morning. Slept like 10 hours last night. That was like pretty awesome. Got my squeaky chair. Yeah, that was pretty groovy. I had a little shower after. Anyone that runs and takes a shower knows, like, you're just like kind of just hot after the shower. So I got a little sweaty, I'm hungry, but the mind is just freed. Like, it's actually just kind of freed. A lot of the noise, that's what I kind of like about running, is a lot of the noise that you have in your head, like different thoughts, and I think just a lot of thoughts that maybe your conscious self has kind of just get dampened, and you're able to just, I think because you get so tired, you're able to just kind of choose the path of like least energy, which is essentially just like your instincts kind of taking over. And for me, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to like think about things too hard. Usually the first thing that comes to your head is like the right thing to do. Which is why I've kind of been trying to get back into running a little more. Get back into that. This past week I had like my department like had a science conference in Breckenridge, and that was really fun. So like I worked Monday, Tuesday, and then like Wednesday morning, and then Thursday, Friday I had the conference, and then I've had this weekend, and now I have this Monday off. So it's been like a nice kind of change of pace, honestly. Classes are kind of starting up next week, so that'll be kind of getting back into the swing of things with that. But other than that, I think honestly the cheese is kind of a sort of like honestly like an analogy for what I've been thinking about. Obviously, anyone that knows like Wisconsin in the slightest, it's like a kind of a symbol of Wisconsin, right? Like, well, cheese in general, but more specifically if you're a Packer fan, like the Cheesehead, it's just classic. But no, I think I've had some more time to think this weekend, and like I think a lot of people that I'm close to are always wondering, like, and they're curious about like how the move has kind of gone out here since I've been out here, and maybe some like fun times I've had, some challenges I've had, and I kind of wanted to speak on that a little bit. I think going on this run this morning, I ran like probably 6 miles. Like it made me realize like compared to my old life, like pretty much everything is like more, I would say more challenging. Like, don't get me wrong, like the adventure I have out here, like the adventures on the weekends I have are like a ton of fun. And also one thing to note too is that like by challenging, it doesn't mean like it's worse, right? I think people hear challenge and they're like, oh boy, like this is a bad thing. But I think an appropriate amount of challenge is probably honestly a good thing. But yeah, in terms of, in terms of the run, I started thinking about it like even in terms of just the elevation out here, like it's higher and coming from Oshkosh where the elevation is, fairly low, like 800 feet. And then, I'm about like roughly a little under a mile out here where I live, like around like 5,000 feet. It's just, it used to be my lungs, but honestly now I think and part of it is just because I could be just running less in general, but I think a lot of it's my legs. Like I feel it in my quads a lot more. Like I don't have those running legs that I used to, and I've been trying to get back into running a little more. Maybe do like gearing up, so maybe do another marathon here. We'll see. I think that's that's often like something that I think people just toss around, but until you actually train for it, you realize like it's not like half marathons are tough, but like a marathon is like you don't just like throw that around like yeah I'm gonna do that. Like that's like difficult. It's not an easy thing to do, and but yeah, I'm like considering it. Right, I haven't committed to anything yet, but I think more on my move out here. I think like it has been more challenging. But the way I kind of look at a move, like if you're gonna make a move like this, as crazy as this move has been for me, where you kind of, I'm going like halfway across the country, right? And I knew like two people out here when I came out here. Like I didn't know. I mean, that's more than most, right? I think even having those couple people that I knew actually made it like significantly easier. Um, but even that alone, like you don't have a lot of people that um I guess like you can come to for help, right? Like you have you have those people that you can always call up, and I'm like super grateful for that. And that's like definitely been a crutch for me is like talking to people that don't live by me but like understand me, even if it is like over a phone call, which definitely isn't as good. Like it still helps like a lot. Um so you have less resources there. And then for me, kind of just throwing myself into this PhD program, like, um, that's a whole nother like can of worms that like I'm not gonna get into too much, but like that's it's not just a job, right? Like being a grad student is awesome, but it's so much it's so much more than like a 9 to 5 like 40-hour job where you can kind of turn it off during the weekends. Like maybe Friday night and Saturday I can do that, but like most days like I'm thinking about stuff and it's when you have your own project and you want to and it's at your own speed, you want to kind of I don't know, you'd like to see it flourish as soon as possible, right? And not to the point where you burn yourself out over it, but you want to do the best you can, right? So it's constantly this battle of like questioning of like I think this can honestly be true for any job, but like I think often when people get most fulfillment out of their job, it's when they're like putting the most effort in, right? And they're really going home every day and reflecting and kind of being like was that really the best I could do today? And if you can answer yes to that, like, it's the best feeling in the world. It's just this peace of mind that, you put it all forward, and you, especially as a grad student, you feel like every day you learn a little bit more, and you become a little bit smarter, and become a little bit, better at your craft. And I think that's like kind of the most rewarding part about like a challenge in general, I think, is that like you go through all this, you beat yourself up. Say I want to run this marathon, right? Like I would have to train for months, like running hundreds of miles before I could even get my legs. It's more about your legs than your lungs, right? Your lungs will be able to take it unless you're like running like insanely fast. But even at that point, like your lungs will probably be trained for it. It's more about your legs, like making sure your muscles have that endurance, right? And I think that's a lot about what a challenge is, like getting to this point where you have the endurance to be able to overcome whatever feat you're facing. And like that's why I think I love, like, I'm such a sucker for like 14ers out here, like climbing all these mountains. Like I think it's the whole way, it's a grind up, and you like, even though I've done 6 of these, right? Everyone you do, even after the first one, like you're like, I think it's natural to have these thoughts like, wow, that's a long ways away. Like, am I really capable of that? And like a lot of times with challenges, like you just keep pushing, like you guys all know, and eventually you get to this point where you're kind of just pushing, and you're not, like, that's all there is to it. And you just kind of keep putting one foot in front of the other. And no matter like what your mind might be telling you, you just, for whatever reason, you just kind of keep moving forward. And that was another thing. I've got like, I'm going to have a pretty busy month coming up with classes coming back into session. And I've got like a couple things a couple like bigger things I have to get done. And I was telling my friend, I was like, the way I've been seeing, like, these times where you realize like you're going to have like a tough month, right? You're going to have to make these pushes. Like that's often what academia is all about. Like I think normal job, not all jobs. I honestly feel like a normal job has this, like you're kind of riding. And then like, say like it's crunch time. Like if you're, I don't know, if you're like someone that does taxes, right? Most of the year you're chilling, and then like April comes and it's just like boom, 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 boom. Like it's insane. And during those times, what I've kind of switched my mindset to is just like, you're simply like, I think a good analogy for me is like, you're like a medium. Your body is simply a medium for all these tasks that you're going to accomplish. Kind of like, a piece of paper is a medium for, writing something down. Like, despite all the like the challenge, the lack of energy, the tiredness, maybe lack of motivation, despite all of that, like on the 14er, you're still gonna put one foot in front of the other. And if those things are important enough to you, no matter how bad that might get, you'll push through them, and you'll get through these, and you just take it a day at a time, even just like a morning at a time, right? I think I've talked to some people lately that are like, after my PhD, I want to do this, this, and that. I'm like, that's great, but like, that's a long ways away. Like, there are plenty of challenges to overcome from then and now. It's like, people ask me now what I want to do after grad school, and I'm just like, let's just, it's just gotten to the point now where it's like, every day is a challenge. Let's like, well, I think that's important. I think for me, I know it'll come in time through overcoming a lot of these other, like, I don't want to say obstacles, but like challenges. And, yeah, let's just take it a day at a time, and like not, I think it's important to think about your future, but don't let it like, don't like beat yourself up over it if you don't know what's next. I think that's important. And I think there's a Mac Miller song, I forget what song it is, but it's like he talks about like people wanting to get through the year, and he's like, I'm just trying to make it through the day. And I think that's like such a good quote for like what I'm trying to talk about. But yeah, the move out here, the way I kind of see it is like, and it's a tough thing, and you have to, in order to be able to do what I did, you have to be in a very special place, right? You have to have like you have to have like a good amount of money. Like you can't come out here, like moves are very expensive, right? They're probably realistically probably a couple grand. I know that U-Haul for me was like decently expensive, and then you got to put down like a security deposit for whatever place you're going to live at, and then on top of that, you're not going to see your probably, unless you like plan it out, you're probably not going to see that first paycheck for a couple weeks after moving. So that has to be like you have to be financially sound there at least a little bit. And then you have to have, some sort of, you have to realize that like you're not going to like meet your best friends out here right away. Like that'll come in time, but like you have to have a support network that you can count on. And, while it's fun, like you will be in this low for a while because like coming from whatever you came from, like you were comfortable, like you had your life established, and then it's kind of like pulling a weed out, right? You like uproot your entire life, you take out that entire weed and say you want to like plant it somewhere else, like, and then like, is that going to grow, right? Like depending on the soil, depending on like, how much water you're giving it, like it might take a while, and like it's not going to happen overnight, but that's kind of how I see it. Like it's such a big learning experience if you can figure it out, because then you're kind of coming at this, you're in the state of like constantly in the beginning, like always uncomfortable. But if you can regain that comfortability in a new setting, then you feel like you can kind of do anything you want, like in a way, because you're like, oh, I did that. Like it's all a comparison thing for me, right? You're like, you look back and you're like, wait, I moved out to Denver and I didn't know anyone, and I like started a job in which like was a very big challenge for me, and now like I'm in this place where it's not so bad. And like you come back to wherever you came from, and you're like, I mean, it's just cake. It's just so easy, so that's kind of something I've been thinking about lately. And I think that's kind of how the move has gone for me in a nutshell. I wouldn't say I'm like comfortable all the time, but I think I've found this kind of peace of mind where most of the time I feel comfortable, and I feel like, I wouldn't say I feel like this is like home quite yet, but like I feel like I've reached a level of comfortability where, I wake up and I'm not at all like stressed out in the position I'm in. Like I feel very good about that. Yeah, especially with this new move. I moved into the city, and I'm no longer like so close to my job, and it's so nice to just like come home, and you kind of feel like you're just, I think I might have talked about this, but you feel like you're just you're a part of something else. Like you have an identity beyond kind of your job, which I really like find is kind of been bringing me some peace of mind lately. But transitioning into the wisdom of the week. I know that was low-key some wisdom of the week, honestly, but what I wanted to talk about, and what kind of the title of the episode is called, who cares? I think this is an idea that I've been sort of teasing apart for a couple of years. I thought of this a few summers ago, honestly, during like a really special day that I'll like never forget in my life. And I thought of this idea of like, who cares? And it really like, for months, it had me just like reeling and just kind of doing my own thing. And I thought it brought a lot of like joy to my life. And how these things go, like you kind of take them as you go. And like, if it's if it fits the bill at the right time of your life, like it really sticks with you a lot. But as you grow and develop, like you kind of grow out of these things, or other things kind of ring to you depending on what challenges you're going through in your life, right? But um this one has kind of been coming back to me, and I think this was like a big growing lesson in my life. This who cares kind of idea. It's really simple. It just gets at this idea of kind of being yourself, right? And say you do something like, I don't know, like especially in a public setting, I think people often get like afraid of what others will think of them and stuff like that. And um it kind of gets at this whole idea that like it doesn't really matter what you do in a public setting, as long as you're not like, I think the biggest thing is that like as long as you're not causing harm to others, and um you're really just doing yourself. You're not really breaking any rules. Maybe you're breaking a lot of social norms. I think that's the biggest thing that people struggle with. Like when you when you break social norms, it can feel like you're like, oh, everyone's like looking at me, and everyone's like doing this, and like being like, why is that guy doing that? But in reality, the whole who cares thing kind of gets at this idea of like, I think in our heads, our egos are constantly telling us like, you're you're always at the center of attention in other people's eyes, and like people are always watching you, and like kind of like judging you, and like just like checking you out at all times. And I think in reality, like it's just your ego lying to you. Like in reality, in honest reality, you go through your day and you think about all the people you interacted with. How many of those people do you actually like remember? And if they did something that like was out of like the social norm, that you actually remember, like maybe in the moment you're like, whoa, that was kind of crazy. But looking back, like if anything, it was like a funny thing that this person did, and that's what stuck with you because you thought it was like hilarious, right? And I think like that's kind of what I'm getting at in this, is that like I think people think, including myself, that they're a lot more important in other people's eyes than they actually are. And it's kind of for some people that can be a wake up call, like, wow, I'm not that important. But honestly, there's some relief in that, I would say, is because like that, to me, like that means like you can walk outside, do whatever you want, as long as it's like, I think for me, like it's more so breaking these societal norms, and like kind of like not like causing any like harm to others, like whether that be through like an insult or like obviously physical harm, but like more so like, I think my buddy once told me, he's like, if there's one person you can make fun of, it's yourself. And I think that's like so true. And you can be like, yeah, I'm an idiot, but I like love myself for that, right? And like um I think it's really easy connecting it kind of to the move, like especially when you don't know anyone and you don't have those people that like really get you and understand you for who you are. It's easy to like put on this like sort of not facade, but just like this sort of like, I'd like to call it like a filter, right? I'm doing a lot of microscopy, and microscopy has like these different filters in which they'll like filter light through, and that's kind of like the analogy I'm kind of thinking of, where like a filter will kind of, it'll like dampen the brightness of the light, right? And that in this case, the light is kind of like, I would say you, right? Like your personality shining through. And like if you can remove that filter, then like always you're having this constant stream of like this super bright light that's shining through. And like I think in a lot of the times that comes through and like breaking a lot of these societal norms, because like no one no one has like no one fits in with society 100%, right? And I think for me, the people that I really really like to hang out with are the people that are honestly just different. And I think a lot of people can agree, like those people that are different from the norm are some of the most funny people that you'll meet, because they do things that are, you just don't expect and you don't see coming. And like that's this whole idea of who cares. If you can drop what other people think that they may think of you, like it's it's honestly just amazing, because you can just do whatever you want, and you kind of just let your creativity go, and you're like, okay, what do I want to do right now? And you just think of all these crazy ideas that honestly no one else has thought of because it doesn't fit in with that norm. And um, kind of going off this, I had my uncle here last weekend. I'm gonna upload that episode. I think he said it on the episode, but like one thing that really stuck with me through that weekend is like he said, he's like, what other people think of you is none of your business. And I think like if you really stop and think about that, like I think that's so cool because I think myself, but also a large majority of people like care so much about what other people think. And this goes back to this question of like who cares? Like, do you care about what other people think? Or in reality, is that really none of your business? Because that's their opinion of you, and like everyone's gonna have an opinion of you. Like some people think you're the best, and if so, like that's amazing, right? Like that's but if people like think you're the worst, then like who cares? Like it just doesn't matter. Like I guess like keep your eyes peeled on the people that really seem to care for you. That's all that really matters, right? Or finding those people that really like give a crap about you and like are really there for you when you need them to be there and like vice versa, right? But other than that, like I mean, none of that is your business, right? And like I think that's what I really thought that was like a cool quote. Um, and I think that's kind of all I wanted to say about the who cares mindset. I think it can be really powerful, but I think it's also like it's obviously easier said than done. And finding a you have these things, but then finding a way to like reinforce it throughout your life is like a whole nother challenge that I don't know if I've really thought about like so far. I think it comes back to like being mindful again and like when you're in these positions that maybe you'll find yourself like, oh, like do I like I think especially in public settings I find that people like really like opinions really matter a lot more to them. So in these times where like you're in those positions, if you can really like stop and think like, am I caring at all what these people think of me? And if you check in with yourself and you realize it's a no, then you're in that who cares mindset. And that's when it gets dangerous. And that's when you can really just have a fun time with yourself. Even if everyone else is like being a bum about around you and kind of just lame, like you will always have fun because you're just doing you. Um, so that was a little wisdom of the week. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm slowly gearing up to start to post weekly again. We're slowly getting there. I think this is just around. This will probably be just under 2 weeks since the last time I posted. Um, Still kind of getting in a routine at the new place yet and figuring that out. Um, but other than that, song of the week is gonna be "Take a Hint" by Stay Warm. I've been really bumping that one lately. Again, just a nice little something like I've been really liking a lot of this like lighthearted music that's like it's not too deep. It's got this like fun little rhythm and you can really just vibe out and just chill. Um, so with that, I think I'm gonna call it. It's Life of the Germ, and I hope you enjoyed. And hopefully I'll catch you next week. That's the goal. All right. Peace.